All right, it's the Pete Sousa Show. It is Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving, one of my favorite days of the year. It is the day that the WKRP, the turkey drop was held. I mean, who didn't know the turkeys could fly? That was the infamous words of Art Carlson, dude, if I'm not mistaken. One of the best holiday episodes. That's probably the best Thanksgiving piece of entertainment ever made. I can't believe I didn't think about that yesterday when Cam and I were talking. We got Scotty Swingler here. We got Cam off in the corner. Zach Burke is here. Cam actually looks more miserable than most days, which has me sort of concerned. And he just asked someone for Tylenol, which is never a good sign. Cam's not a big party guy, but maybe he's just having a rough morning. And the little guy, he'll get through it. He's got a big weekend. He's got a big football game, Kansas Baylor. He's got a pregame show to do for that. And hey, it's Thanksgiving. We're happy to be here. I wanted to start off talking about, I'm dressed up today because I just had to record something, and it had to do, it was directly based around the Big 12. And after the college football rankings came out last night, Arizona State, there's 5 Big 12 teams in the top 25. I swear I'm not here to be like a Big 12 apologist. I just want to bring some facts to this because it's sort of freaking me out. The way this thing is starting to move. And the way that it's starting to move is like, if like there's a scenario that it's a long shot, but like the Big 12 couldn't, I mean, there is a path where there's no team that gets in, which is like kind of crazy. I mean, so can we bring up the top 25? Scotty, this was released last night. Boise State is ranked 11th overall. Arizona State is 16th. Now I think, let me get this right. There's 4 other Big 12 teams in the top 25. None of them obviously are higher than Arizona State. And it really appears now more than ever that the committee is valuing name recognition and past performance, like past performance, over actual performance. And it's worrisome. Again, I mentioned 5. They got 5 Big 12 teams in the latest top 25. But I want to start talking about Arizona State. The Sun Devils come in that poll, and they're ranked 16th when it's all said and done. They're 9-2. I just got to say this. They're 9-2 with 3 top 25 wins this season. Okay. But they're directly behind 2 3-loss SEC teams who have fewer ranked wins. Like that. So that's like something worth mentioning. They're also behind a 2-loss Clemson team that has only beat one team, with the winning record. Okay. And then you get to the Boise State argument, which is like, this is where it gets so simple for me. Okay. Boise State ranked 11th. Like I said, you have Arizona State, who are focusing on right now, who is ranked 16th. Arizona State beat the shit out of Wyoming earlier this year. Not like, they kind of beat them. Like they blasted Wyoming. Why? Because Wyoming's not a very good football team. I've seen Wyoming play, fortunately or unfortunately, in person like 3 times this year. They're not good. They're the kind of team, if you were to bet against Wyoming when their team has the ball and their quarterback is rolling around, they had this one kid, Sabota and somebody else, like you kind of like your odds. Like they could throw a pick 6. Like anytime the Wyoming offense has the ball, if you're the opponent, like you're okay, this could go okay for us. Like we might be able to score. So that's a real indicator. So I said Arizona State, back to the task at hand. Arizona State blasted Wyoming early in the year. And last week, Boise State barely beat Wyoming. I think it was 17-14. That's a current state of affairs type reflection. And I totally understand that we're all gassed up about Ashton Jeanty. He's so exciting. And he's playing in the Mountain West. It's similar to, and I was doing some just some reading on this because it interested me last night. So people are comparing this season to Barry Sanders' 1988 season. And I remember being a kid, I was like, that was interesting because Barry Sanders, actually, I remember Oklahoma State was pretty good that year. And they were really good. They lost 2 games. They lost to Nebraska and they lost to Oklahoma. This is playing in the old Big 8. They finished the season ranked 11th in the country. It must be said that the Big 8 was a MFer of a conference. Like, there was no walk in the park. Like Nebraska, Oklahoma, that was a point in time when Colorado was starting to surge and get better. And so you look around the country and you see the Mountain West where Ashton Genty is having all this success. And I get it. It's exciting to see his team playing well. But that's a frustrating argument. And here's one more to put the cherry on top. Forget about Pete waxing poetic about Barry Sanders, right? They have the 81st ranked strength of schedule. Boise State does. I mean, that should say a lot to you. And week in and week out, these teams in the Big 12 are beating the snot at each other. And so now I'm going to I want Scotty Swingler to weigh in on this. Host of the Bear With Me podcast that's going to come back. Well, you are the host of the podcast, Scotty. Stop being so. I'm sick of your humility. All right, I'm kind of annoyed by it.
All right,
recently, I talked about your musical career. You couldn't have shut me down any faster.
Career, I wasn't in Wicked or something. I put out a rock and roll song.
Okay, you put out a rock and roll song. I tried to bring it up once, and you freaked out on me to the point where I was like, I'm never going to talk about Scotty's music career again, unless I'm feeling comfortable enough to break his balls.
Listen to the song before you talk about it.
All right. So, why is the Big 12, in your opinion, getting? And I'm not saying that, it's a hardcore shaft, but like, dude, even if I was not affiliated with the conference and I was living in Philadelphia, I know that I would look at that top 25 and that playoff breakdown and be like, that's weird.
You know, it would be really easy for me to say something like laziness, like watch the freaking football games, right? Like the idea that Tulane is sitting at 17 ready to pounce if we have one of these whack scenarios where like a Baylor gets into the championship game and an Arizona State and Iowa State fall off and Tulane could make the playoff over whoever ends up winning the Big 12 is absurd. Yeah. Like that's a sign to me that they are not watching the football games. The fact that Arizona State and Iowa State are ranked below Alabama at this point is all about what you just said, name brand. What did you do 3 years ago? I mean, it's not about what's on the field right now because Oklahoma sucks this year, and they just
destroyed them.
Cleaned house with Alabama. That was one of my picks for bets last week. I was like, Alabama minus 13 should be a lock. They got floored. I mean, so yeah. I mean, I'm totally with you on the SEC bias is insane. I think these committees, I wonder if they try to overthink it, right? Like, well, we can't move Alabama. They moved Alabama down 5 spots. Well, we'll move them down 5 spots for a loss instead of like kind of resetting every week and going, okay, we have watched these teams play. You've got some that are clearly deserving, Oregon, Ohio State, right? These very top teams, nobody's arguing. But once we get past like 5, even 4, I don't know that Penn State at 4. How is Penn State 4 and SMU is 9? I think if you watch both those teams play.
Can you pull up the playoff real quick one more time?
I think if you watch both those teams play, like you could easily say, I think SMU beats Penn State today. And I could be wrong, but like, why is a 1-loss SMU? Penn State has only played one good team. It was Ohio State, and they got killed.
I have a theory too about some of these bigger conferences, like, and just kind of hang in there with me as we look at the top 25. The SEC you talked about, Scotty, and like SEC bias. Alabama has like 3 losses, and the SEC is. I think you could argue, but the SEC clearly in the Big Ten are the 2 best conferences in the country. With the transfer portal and the way that things are working with NIL, and I'm hearing this from people involved with teams. Some of these big schools like Alabama, where the 3rd strong safety on the roster was still a 5-star guy that would show up on campus, figure out, I'm not going to play. And then you're kind of stuck. I mean, you're actually probably toughing it out and becoming calloused as a human being and actually becoming a better person and ultimately a better teammate. And you know, if you earn it, your turn will come playing on the field. But now it's if you show up, I'm a 5-star, I'm a 4-star, I'm not going to play. Well, I'm going to transfer somewhere else. And there is depth that these powerhouse teams used to have and these powerhouse conferences used to have that we're starting to see spread out throughout the country. And I think is leading to a lot more parity than people especially in those big conferences, care to acknowledge.
Yeah, I agree. And I just look at this, see Arizona State sitting there at 12. I think Arizona State tomorrow might beat Ohio State. Like, I don't think that's an insane take, even though Ohio State's ranked number 2. Okay.
I do. I think Arizona State would get crushed by Ohio State.
I don't.
Okay.
And,
that's great.
And even though Arizona State's ranked 16 and Ohio State's ranked 2.
I'm trying to figure it out because I watched Arizona State. I watched Cam Scatterbo like run all over BYU. Like, if you actually watch that game, I would urge anybody to watch even the condensed version of the game. You can find it on YouTube. Like, his yards after it's crazy. Like, he is like, he's very, I hate to be the white guy comparing a white guy to another white guy, but I'm going to do it. It reminds me of a little bit like a Mike Allstott. Like, just like, boom, he absorbs contact and he just keeps going. He barrels into the secondary. He's faster than Mike Allstott, and he's probably a little thinner, but sorry, that's who I thought of. All right, any more thoughts about the college football playoff?
Sure. I think I've said this. I feel like every week we've done this, and I just think it remains true. If you're the Big 12, you have to win games in the postseason now.
Yeah.
So whether it's Arizona State or Iowa State sneaks in, you have to win that first round game. Yeah. Or everyone's, especially if you lose badly, if you lose by 3 scores, everyone's going to say, see, the Big 12 doesn't belong, right? But you have to win that first round game. And then I would say this, if you are the Big 12 and you've only got 1 team in while the SEC has 3 or 4, the Big 10 has 3 or 4, you know what else you need to do? You need to clean up all your bowl games as well. Yeah. Like, Baylor needs to go win a bowl game by 3 touchdowns, right?
Yeah.
Iowa State and BYU, if they are not the team to represent the playoff, needs to go win their bowl game by 3 touchdowns. Like, because that says, okay, look, we are cleaning house with the middle of these big conferences. So put our best against their best in the playoff. Maybe let's get 2 of these teams in here next season, right? But if you go into the bowl season and you bat 500 in bowl games, even though the SEC has 6 teams in the playoff, you're not helping yourself next season.
Yeah. So in some of the matchups, even you talk about this, like, you have to win in the playoff. Like, dude, that's a tough draw. If you're Arizona State playing at the Horseshoe in your first round playoff game,
it sucks. Yeah, you would want that first round bye, but Boise State, I think, has that pretty locked away at this point, unless they somehow lose to UNLV in the Mountain West.
That's possible, dude. That's
game, which is possible. UNLV is a good team.
Yeah, and I think that Boise State is sort of due. That showing against Wyoming really lets me know that, and maybe they went out and laid an egg. It happened, but I'm like, okay, this team is like moving towards like the Genty. The numbers have kind of gone down a little, like to a little more like human level,
right?
And I don't know.
But Pete, it is the cultural narrative to the point where, like, College Game Day is laughing about having to pick Big 12 games, that the Big 12 is subpar to these other conferences. So even if it's Arizona State and Ohio State, you cannot go out there and get beat bad. You can't. I mean, at minimum, I think you have to lose by a score.
Yeah.
And ideally, go win that game and shut some people up and say, okay, yes, Arizona State lost 2 games in the Big 12. And that was about the same as Ohio State losing a game or 2 in the Big 10, because these are both deep conferences. Like, you have to win. I mean, we're going to be really upset if we're sitting here.
So you truly do believe the Big 12 got hosed when you look at that? When you look at the rankings,
I think the perception that the Big 12 is a severe step behind the other 2 in talent is just false.
Yeah,
I think that's untrue. I think, like, for example, again, like put Kansas right now, not even a winning Big 12 team, against any middle SEC team,
like Mississippi State,
dude. I might pick Kansas over South Carolina right now, and they've got South Carolina ranked 15th.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't think there's this crazy talent discrepancy. I would agree.
I totally agree.
The premier programs and the top of the top are in those leagues. I mean, Oregon is the best team in the country this year. Georgia, despite their losses, has more talent than most people. Like, the SEC's got some of that. The Big Ten's got some of that. But the Wild, like, this league is like the standard, and the Big 12's like playing AA baseball is just not real. That's not reality.
And by the way, congratulations to college football and to ESPN, because we were all so in on this, like whether you like it or not.
It's a show.
And it's pretty cool. I mean, now
It's a
here we
reality
are.
show.
We're flirting with December. And when this playoff gets in, this is going to be so much fun.
It will be.
And it's going to be so much fun that we did not have last year. Like if that were to, and it's not, it's going to get jumbled, but if that were to be a proper assessment of where we're going to be, right? That bracket we put up, how fun would that be? Arizona State at Ohio
And
State.
here's the chaos scenario is right now A&M's ranked 20th.
Yeah.
After losing this last weekend. If they beat Texas this week, which very possible, that rivalry coming back for the first time in a long time, don't count the Aggies out.
How many years, Zach, has it been since?
Yeah,
wow,
13 years.
Yeah. That's going to be crazy.
I think that's correct.
Yeah.
If A&M beats Texas this weekend, A&M jumps Texas to get into the SEC championship. Wow. So imagine this scenario. A&M beats Texas. So what do you now do with a Texas team that lost to the only two great teams they played, right? Georgia and then A&M. Then A&M goes and plays in the SEC championship against Georgia. What happens when they beat Georgia? So you'd have a 3-loss SEC champion, Texas A&M, a 2-loss Texas that lost to A&M and didn't even make the game, a 3-loss Georgia who made the game. Like that would just be chaos all around for the playoff. And it's going to be fun. It makes it exciting.
I got one question for you. So I'm going to, we've gone over, so I'm going to just ask you this one thing. So Sean Bell means a lot to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me why. So he got named the OC.
It's a little bit of a story, but I can condense it.
Yeah.
So
I just saw Swingler tweeting about Sean Bell.
Yeah. So Sean Bell's the OC at Houston. He played quarterback at Baylor.
Yeah.
So Sean Bell, when I was in kindergarten, my kindergarten teacher was out the first 6 or 7 weeks of kindergarten with a family deal. And I had a sub, Becca Bell, who is Mark Bell's wife. And he was the new AD at the school. And she said, hey, y'all should come out to the football game tonight. My son's making his first start. Sean Bell was a freshman, starting quarterback for China Spring High School. Kindergarten and first grade, he was my Cougar big brother. So the varsity team would adopt like elementary kids and like hang out with us or like talk to us about football and stuff. And so Sean Bell was my Cougar big brother. Then as I was in elementary school, I got to watch him play at Baylor. I was at the game when he completed a 2-point conversion to beat number 13 Texas A&M in double overtime. Yeah. I found him on the field after that game. I think I was in 3rd or 4th grade. I found him on the field and he gave me a hug and picked me up. And then actually, I'll save this for another segment. Yeah. There is proof. I am the reason Sean Bell got hired to coach at Baylor under Matt Rule.
Now we're talking.
That can be a segment next time.
Yeah, but we will revisit. You had an impassioned tweet about or X whatever, and I was like, I got to ask Scotty about that.
I may or may not have helped Sean get back to Baylor to coach, and so I'm a big fan. He's a friend, like mentor, long time.
I love it.
All-time good guy too. So
the Scotty Swing Away Collective is already thriving right now. All right, we're gonna do some picks. It's almost Thanksgiving, which means we got to be grateful. We're grateful for the success we've had so far this year. Let's find out if we're going to be grateful for the success we have this week. All in bets coming up with Corey Dickman.